About to go wine. So, Trails Collective crew out there. This is Ian from the Trails Collective. We've got Matrix Lasagna sipping on some wine as we were joking around in Ben Nephew style. Ben, I'm assuming you're not tuning in, but that would be an ode to you in case you are. And we are also live, in addition to Matrix Lasagna, with Ben Robinson, who will be our guest for the evening. Ben, thanks for making some time this evening.
Thanks
so absolutely, man. Yeah. And so we'll get into maybe some hard hitting questions here, which usually Matrix Lasagna does bring to the table. And we'll go through maybe some of where you are, some of your background, and I've got hopefully some things here to roast you on. But let's just start with actually here, let's go here. So your last racing season, 2019, for most of it, started pretty solid. I think it was your formidable 50K, I think, kicked off your 2019, and it was a really solid field. You ran well, 8th, but it was pretty deep. And it ended with the 234 CIM marathon, which, if I remember right, seeing maybe one of your posts, you were hoping for the trials bid, and it just didn't go that way on that day. So did that year, 2019, go down more like butterscotch or red hots in your mouth?
It did not. It started off great. That formidable race went really well up until the last mile. My last mile ended up to be like 20 minutes. I had a real hard fall, not fall, but I bonked really hard that last mile. So the season started off great. I loved that course. There was even a section on that course where they had a ton of rain. And I remember coming around this corner and seeing this guy. There was this water section. He was up to his waist in the water on this. It wasn't even a creek crossing. It was just this big puddle of water. So the season started off really well. And it all was leading up to CIM in the fall. Well, it was in December. The goal was to hit the Olympic trials time. And on the flight out to California, I got a bad head cold, and it kind of threw everything off. I feel like I was in shape. It just didn't come together. But 2024, I'm going to try again, I believe.
Yep. And your lead in, I think, ahead of that. Oh no, that was 2018. You ran Wineglass in 18, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So tried to poke around at some of the stats there to give it some reference. But
I take that back. I did that the year that I did CIM. I did that in 2019.
Oh, Wineglass was 2019.
Yeah.
So you ran a 110 there.
I did. Yep.
And so you felt like you were, and so that was in the middle of some trail mixes too. But your focus was end of the year, getting wicked fit, crossing over to some roads, and just kind of ending hot.
Yeah, I did the summer and beginning part of the fall. I did trail racing and like faster road workouts. And then after a couple trail races, I just focused on getting ready for CIM. Wineglass was like right after the trail season. So that was like right when things were starting to pick up in terms of road prep.
Yep.
So yeah.
What you got to say about that Matrix Lasagna?
What
I have to say,
I'm nervous about Wineglass. I heard Wineglass.
Oh, that's right. You gave me the cue right on cue, and I did. That's why you're sharp. Yeah.
That's okay. I was just trying to drink every time he said Wineglass.
That's why you're quick
now
on
let
your
me
feet.
let me ask you this. No, so right. Well, let me ask you this, Ben. Wineglass. Where did the Dan Laura hay bale toss? Was that the year of the Dan? Was that when you ran Wineglass? Was that the same year that Dan had that terrible hay bale toss at the race that you directed?
I think that was the year before Wineglass. I think you should give some context for the people watching on that.
Okay.
I want some context there. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm curious.
So
I love this though.
So Dan, so we had a. So Ben directs. Is it the Howland Preserve 5 mile? Right.
Yep.
That's the name of the race. So
Yep.
Ben directs this race, out in Nanacoke.
Tunkhannock.
Is that where it is? Tunkhannock. Okay.
Yep.
So, and he had Tunkhannock, and he had a bunch of us come out to do the race. And then afterwards, we were like, let's, competition was flowing. We're like, let's keep it up. Now, what can we compete in? So it kind of turned from like a trail race into like the Scottish Highlands Games. And we had hay bales out for decoration because it was a fall. And well, there's pumpkins, and we were like, let's not use knives and like carve pumpkins. Let's toss these hay bales. So we're like, let's toss these hay bales. And his one buddy, Dan, is like, I'm the best hay bale tosser on the planet. I have taken the crown at the local hay bale tossing at the county fair ever since, as long as I can remember. Since I came into the gene pool, no one has topped me. I throw a hay bale like you wouldn't believe. I mean, he talked the talk, and then it came time. He didn't even, what did him in though was, okay, so everybody went to toss this, and he even had a technique and stuff. He picked up that hay bale though, and then his faults were he thought he could win in Birkenstocks. So he was wearing not the right footwear. And then it was raining, and he stepped on a slippery hemlock root, and he spun around in his, like he was going to just chuck this thing to the moon. But then his Birkenstock slipped on the hemlock root. Instead of throwing it anywhere, he threw it directly straight down into the ground. He got like 0. He might have gotten negative space, but he went like, and then the hay bale just exploded. And I have pictures, and like there's a picture of Ben in the background. He's got his clipboard because people are still coming in for the race, and he's like, oh.
Oh, this is even during race. That's outstanding.
So yeah, I was wondering. So I was wondering if that was the same year of wine glass or not.
No, different year, but not only, like you said, it didn't go anywhere, the hay bale exploded and it didn't go anywhere. So it was a double negative.
Huh.
Yeah, and for the next two competitors, we had to grab a different hay bale, which
So is that one, can you keep that in the mix then for that race? I mean, you're like, look, maybe it didn't work out on it's a 5K, is that what you said?
5 mile.
Oh, it's a 5 mile.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just change it to like a 4 mile and then a hay bale toss.
Yeah, you have to, when you come across, now you have to throw the hay bale.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it goes down in Tunkhannock. Am I pronouncing that right?
Tunkhannock. Yep.
Tunkhannock.
Yep.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for you. I see you had 2 PA titles in cross country when you were in high school. Yep. I was curious where you grew up, like where you did cross country growing up.
I was District 3. So I grew up just
like there.
No, I grew up in a small town called Honeybrook, which was right where Chester, Berks, and Lancaster counties came together.
Yeah.
And I went to Twin Valley High School. Was the
very cool
high school? Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Where you got what? Well, actually, I would have been ahead of your time, so we would have been probably different classes or whatever. I think we were. Now this is all getting fuzzy, but I think we were like class AA in cross and class AAA in track. And I'm guessing you guys might have been AA then too, right? We probably would have crossed over.
Yeah, the year after I left, it went to AAA. I mean, AA, AAA, and single A for cross.
Yeah.
We were always AAA, but we went to AA when things turned after I graduated.
Yep. And so that was people like after you graduated, they're just like, this town just kind of sucks. So you kind of had an exodus of people leaving after you were done.
Yeah, that's how it went down.
Yep. Yeah, I think we only traveled your neck of the woods each year, and it's an awesome trip. We would go out to run the Rocky Grove Invitational.
Okay.
And we had a blast. It was always just whatever. We were junior high. I think as junior high schoolers, we did it too. Junior high into high school, taking the bus trip, and just, I mean, that was anytime you're, I guess, a junior high school or even into high school there, taking a nice long bus trip, including dark miles, and it makes for some good times there.
Oh, yeah.
And so Tunkhannock, next question is then, do you think that it's possible? So I think in a quick Google search, Tunkhannock's population comes up as 1,911 individuals. So do you think it's probably the case that Tunkhannock would have grown quite a bit more in population if they didn't choose such a clunky sounding name?
I think that more people live here because of that name.
More people.
Yeah. Yep.
Hmm.
We live right next to the Susquehanna. We have P&G is the big where everybody works in town. So yeah, I love it. There's a lot of mountains in town and a lot of recreation.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
That's fair. A lot of that Pennsylvania recreation.
Yep. Absolutely.
Mhm.
But we're we're like 45 minutes outside Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. So we're pretty close to the cities, but we're like an hour and a half out to Central PA, where I like to go to train for trails and stuff.
Yep. It's that Pennsylvania. Even growing up in relatively rural Pennsylvania, I mean, we were only, I don't know, like half hour from Westchester. Not that we ever really went there. An hour from Philly or whatever, but it still felt pretty rural, surrounded by Amish country. Basically, I had
Yeah.
trailer parks. Amish farms were more prevalent than neighborhoods, but the Pennsylvania recreation, though, it always kind of threw me a little bit when I'd hear of like a sporting goods store. Growing up as playing sports, I always thought, like swimming or running sporting goods, and it just always threw me off where it was like hunting and fishing, and I was like, I don't even get it. Like that doesn't even sound like a sport to me, and I don't understand.
That's how it is in Tunkhannock too. Yep, we have the sporting goods stores. It has all the essentials. It has the guns, ammo, and bread.
Yeah, essentials.
Yep.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep. Um, what is that from Eric? Tongue hammock.
Or tough ham neck, however you want to.
There you go. Yep.
Uh-huh. And yeah.
But is that how it is up in Ithaca as well?
Ithaca is kind of its own bubble, just being like a college town, and definitely more wealth here and like the liberal demographic, and it being a college town and with a fairly good size high school. Sports are definitely big, but as soon as you get outside of Ithaca, it's definitely more of that traditional kind of I don't know, more of that other type of recreation, and I guess more common sports in like the rural area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Ithaca made you want to stick around and start your business there? I really like that idea.
Yeah, I left. I started traveling in my grad work. I took intentionally chose travel opportunities during my grad year for internships. So I took one in Scotland for a while. I was in New Mexico for a bit. I was in California for a bit. And then my girlfriend in grad school was a pretty stellar runner, and she was running for Cortland, or one of Jack Daniels' prodigies. And Jack was applying for a position with University of Hawaii at the time for their cross and track coach, and I guess we kind of thought he'd get it. And she was offered a full ride out there, and she was like, I'll go if you'll go. And I was like, yeah, I'll move to Hawaii. So I moved from Scotland to Hawaii, and kind of bypassed coming back to Ithaca, and just stayed west for a while and moved around. But we really liked Ithaca. My wife ran for Ithaca as well, and we reconnected when we were both living in the Pacific Northwest, and decided to come back just because it was closer to family. But at the time, I was weighing Ithaca and Flagstaff to open a running store. And there was one, I think, that opened in Flag the same year I came back here. So I guess that was a close one that two of us didn't try at the same time in Flag.
Yeah.
But I really liked Ithaca. You've got I imagine similar to the feelings that you've got about Lock Haven, where you've got the history, and it just, I don't know. But Ithaca's got a lot to offer. In terms of when we were thinking about coming back to start our own families, and it was equidistant to both of our parents, and I just figured it would be a community that would kind of support a small store, even though it's a pretty small community, and so made the move back to try to make it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot to do up there.
What's and Matrix, jump in if you need to at any point here. So what's your time in Tunkhannock? What are you doing? What do you do there?
So my day job, I am a investment advisor. I work for Stonehouse Retirement Income Planners. We help people leading up to retirement and through their retirement. I also work with younger people to get them on the right track to plan for retirement. And other than that, I'm running twice a day and just living in my apartment here. We're getting ready. We're planning a wedding. Me and my fiance are planning a wedding. So that's the exciting stuff for the year.
And was that wedding supposed to? Is this the natural progression of the wedding planning, or was that supposed to go down in like 2020?
Yep, it's this August. It was going to happen this August. Last September we got engaged. So thankfully, we didn't have to move anything.
And if I was proficient in my Facebook stalking, I think I saw some sort of you dropping a knee like up in the Adirondacks or something like that.
No, actually, it was at Cape May, New Jersey. Her family goes there every year.
On the beach. That was it. Damn it. Yep. It was the beach.
Yep. But right before that, we went to the Adirondacks. So you were pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cape May is a romantic place. I mean, if I were ever to probably, I don't know, see if Matrix Lasagna wanted to join me for like a date weekend, just kind of like off the books, I would probably consider Cape May.
You should do it. Yeah, we can give you some recommendations.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandparents lived in Cape May, so that was fun going there as a kid. Hopefully, hopefully after you propose, you went up and rocked some skee ball right there in one of the arcades.
We did not. We ate some chicken at the local restaurant, so it was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Matrix, you just jump in. I think there's a time delay. I feel like I start talking as soon as I see you may be thinking of saying something, but you just jump in if you got something over there. So, all right, let's dig into your, and I think I referenced it. So it's pretty funny on your Hoka sponsorship there, just in the shop. I can't tell you how many individuals walk in just asking if we carry that their friend has this shoe that they really like, and it's really comfortable, and they want one, and they're pretty sure it's called Hoka, and it's the Hoka Clinton. You carry the Hoka Clinton. And so tell me about so it looks like you started based on the race gear with Ultra, and then maybe shifted to pick up a little bit of cushion under the foot.
Yeah, so in 2018, I started on the Ultra Ambassador program. That was like, I moved out west. I was living in Utah, and they were from Salt Lake, the area. So I knew the right people. I kind of got into the right group there, and started with the Ambassador program, and was stuck with that for a couple years. But my friend Hayden was on the Hoka team at the time, and I really loved the way that they worked with their athletes, and the way that they not treated them, but the way that their contracts were set up. So in 2018 into 2019, I started reaching out to Hoka. Every year I would reach out, and I was like, hey, what do you guys think? And they were like, nah, you're not really ready yet. And this year I was really looking for to try something new, because I was with Ultra for 3 years at the time. And I jumped in the JFK 50 and went through some problems where after 50K, I wasn't able to take in any more calories. And so everything kind of came to a halt. Mm-hmm. And after the race, I was like, dang it. It was in November, December, January is when companies start, pick up their new athletes. And I was like, darn it, that was my last chance. And I reached out to Hoka, just being like, I was like, so what do you guys think? Nobody really raced this year. And they're like, actually, yeah, we were following along the JFK race, and we'll call you next week and we'll set something up. So it was just the perfect timing, and they were just looking for people that were running longer. So they liked the idea that I was jumping into JFK and stuff.
Well, that's an interesting. I mean, that's a good, interesting side topic with Matrix Lasagna pitching back the wine back there. If he's sufficiently lubed up at this point to, I mean, that's a good side topic in that Matrix Lasagna is a perfect example of somebody who's thrown down some pretty stellar performances. One of the better runners for sure in the Northeast. Has a pretty, I think, engaging and humorous kind of social media presence in the videos or whatever. So would be like a prime, and jumps around a lot, and would be a prime candidate, but prefers just to keep it relatively shorter, like in distance. So it's tough to, and as he experienced, I think with the Salmon track, and tough to get the amount of respect unless you're running those longer distances. So in your experience too is similar, where Hoka is really just, I mean, it's the exposure or the pull is toward athletes who are running basically ultras.
Yeah, and I've seen the same thing, and it's a really interesting thing that it's like UTMB and Western are like the two golden races, it seems, that everyone tries to go after. But these shorter races, there's a lot of really cool races all over the world, and I think that some of them do really get a lot of exposure. And maybe the brands see something that we necessarily don't, but yeah, they really do like the longer events.
Matrix, you want to weigh in there in case there's a lag? I'll give it a second. Come on now. No, can't hear you. No, dude, you're silent. Oh, heard something. Hang in there. Nope, nothing.
Yeah, how about that?
There it is.
Oh, good.
Hear me?
There we go.
Yep, there you are.
Okay. I
took
the headphones out. I don't know. I was talking a little while ago because Ben started talking about all those crazy Pennsylvania names, and I wanted to say like about that time we got lost up in Mackinac and Chickashinny by the Susquehanna, and there was a nuclear reactor, and we ended up by a bat cave, and then we came out in a cemetery, and we flagged down a car, so we hitchhiked back with like the people we asked directions for. One guy was like dressed like a vampire. Like he was like, I was like, we were like, well, let's go down here. And then we went into a store, and there was like, it was like being a time machine. There was cardboard cutouts of NASCAR racers and like swimsuit models, and they were all yellowed from the 70s. And everybody was really ugly. Like they were like, I was like, it was like Hills Have Eyes people. And like, we were lost, and we were running in the hills and stuff. And like, I don't know. There was just a side story when you were talking about weird Pennsylvania town names. Then I was over here like, you couldn't hear me talk, so I was like, oh, whatever. And then you're like, maybe Matt will weigh in, and I'm like, I'm weighing in.
Can't weigh in more.
But anyways, yeah, and then we eventually flagged down hitchhiker. We were hitchhikers, and we jumped into a car with like Guy and his girlfriend. The guy was probably like 35 and the girl was probably like 17. It was weird. And then there was like a little kid in the back seat. Like we were like, it was me, Ben, and then this kid in this car seat, like sucking on a binky. And we're like, and we had to hitchhike for 10 miles. They were friendly enough to give us a ride, but man, the people in that, like, we were like it's just like, oh man, it was weird. But going back to what you said, yeah, I think that like Zach Miller was kind of saying the same thing when I was talking to him, is that they like to see, companies like to see people going further and farther. And I think, like they like to see the short distance stuff, but for sure that's kind of, at least what, Zach and Ben were just saying, is that they like to advertise to, it's cool if you do short stuff, but they also like to see advertised to the ultra scene, because that's what their kind of market is. Plus, you know what? If in a marketing sense, it makes even more sense, because if your product can take a beating for like 50 miles instead of like 10 miles, like, hey, look, I raced in the same pair of shoes for this entire 100-mile race. I mean, some people were like, oh, I throw my shoes away after 100 miles. This guy's like, no, I got 3 more races in these things. So that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Is that
You're okay, Ben? Go ahead.
Ian, when you were racing more competitively, was that a standard thing as well? Were you actively seeking out sponsorships as well?
No, I was never that good. And I think I kind of bypassed my potential, like as a competitive runner. I think like, so when I first got out of college, I was living in Hawaii, as I mentioned. And I think I signed up for my first race out of college. I signed up for the MMT 100 back in Virginia, and jumped in and showed up to pace some. So I was living outside of Honolulu, and we had the trails, which became the Hurt 100 course, basically right up behind where I was living. And so they were kind of my go-to at the time trails. And so they were putting on the inaugural Hurt 100, and I think just showed up after work and said, if they just asked if they needed any help, and they were like, "Yeah, the leader needs a pacer." And I was like, "I don't even know what that means." Like, but yeah, I'll be back at like a certain time. He'll be back at maybe like 10 p.m. is like a projection, and so I showed up around that time, and I had no idea. So I jumped in with him, and that was Luis Escobar, and that was cool. I paced him a couple years out there. But that first one, I was like, again, I didn't really, I mean, I guess I got it, right? Because I was signed up for MMT. It was still relatively young. I think that was probably like 2001, give or take. And so some ultras have been around for a while, but there weren't that many out there. I mean, it was still a pretty young sport. And so showed up for him that night and ended up going 40 miles with him, which was, way more than I had gone or was like planning for or whatever. And so that was the first, I think, segue or intro, but it was kind of a different game. I mean, I don't know what the focus was, but from there, shortly after I started moving around a bit, and like when I was living in Hawaii, I think I was probably at least trying to surf, or surfing and climbing as much as I was running. So I was never really focused. And I moved to Central Oregon and Bend, and was also just really just doing all sorts of different stuff. I don't think I was even really running that much. I was probably playing some ultimate frisbee and climbing, maybe running on occasion. I was never really focused. So I think I just kind of, in the winters I was skiing. So I would just kind of bypass what I think could have been the competitive years. But even if I did, like I did okay in college. I guess I did pretty well in college, but I still didn't have the wheels that you had. And again, doing my research here, going up, you're a 14:30 5K guy, 4:13 mile, I think it was, give or take. And so I was probably a few seconds behind you there, which I think makes a difference, where you can kind of vie for some of those. I think that top kind of slate, where I think I probably would have still been, I don't know, maybe on a good day would have been going for podium, but like not the win or whatever. So I think that, I wouldn't have been in that mix. And it was also, and as we got into it in those years, as it was building, I suppose, it was the individuals like Hal Corner and Scott Jurek, who was just getting into. So, and then I moved to Seattle after Hawaii. And at the time, there was a crew that was based around the Seattle Running Company, which was a buddy's store, Scott McCubry, who I've continued to stay friends with and pretty regular contact. But it was like Jurek was working at the store, and Chrissy Mail was working at the store, and Hal was working at the store. And it was like this hotbed of what became, and like Uli Steidl, who didn't, even at age like 46, wasn't too far behind you at formidable 50K there, like still cranking away. Like it was this really cool scene. And some of those obviously went on to like do well. And I think they became like that first generation of like sponsored runners, I guess. And I guess to your point, yeah, I mean, maybe that is still where the money came in. And I think North Face was one of the big players like early, which was a really interesting thing, because they made just crappy shoes, and their athletes didn't even have to wear them to run a race, which was just an interesting thing. But I guess long-winded me just going off there. Yeah, I mean, I guess from the beginning it was based on the focus and the sponsor and the marketing appeal going after the long races.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense. That's really cool that you were a part of that out in Seattle there, with some of those really like legendary names.
Yeah, I was on the fringe. I happened to come in. I was coaching a high school team out there at the time, and I was I was kind of like the, I don't know, like I was the JV team, so to speak. I was working at a New Balance store in downtown Seattle, as opposed to where this like hotbed was, and in hindsight, I should have done what I could to, but whatever. But that's kind of how it was. And it was definitely a really cool scene to be around and a part of, even though I was really just at best like the periphery. But it was cool to be in those years and kind of see it grow and build and to still have some of those, I think, connections to see, I don't know, where everything went from there.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I don't know if it was cool as though.
You know what's kind of cool is that. So, am I now? Am I talking?
You're live. Okay. You're good.
You know what's kind of cool is that Ian is like Ian's kind of been in the background of like a lot of. He's been always like in the background, like watching. You know what I mean? Like in the background of a lot of things. It sounds like oh, I was here, I was there. Like, oh, I just I saw these guys. Like you were. It's like you were in the shadows watching. Like it's kind of cool because I don't know if you knew this, Ben, but Ian has even raced Heiner.
I did.
Yep. I think I probably have one of the slowest win times like in history, probably for that course.
No, hold on a second. This was also the first time that I ever met Ian. Was that I didn't know who he was, and like obviously he's very decorated and stuff. But like you say, he's just a real humble guy in the shadow. He was like killing the 50K, and the first, and I'll never forget the first thing that Ian ever said to me. Hey, you're going the wrong way.
That sounds about right for when you're racing.
I was like,
and I did.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm fine. I was not going the right way.
you were in your flow.
Then he went on to win that race. Ian went on to win that race, and then at the picnic, he like taps me on the shoulder. He's eating a chicken wing, and he's like, "Hey, told you you're going the wrong way."
Yeah, I'm pretty straight shooter there. I don't lie. I'll tell you what I think in the moment, and what I thought in the moment was this kid looks like he's running really quick and fast, but he's definitely not supposed to be coming this way.
The first time I raced,
it's cool that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say the first time I raced you, we were running together and you took a wrong turn.
And I gave for years. I gave you a hard time about that, and then I started feeling bad. I thought I was really just getting under your skin with it because I think I'd bring it up at every race, like tell the field, make sure you're just not following Lipsy, just because I felt like you kept doing it. But maybe I
no,
really
it's
wasn't
funny.
That much.
Here's my philosophy: if you can't if you and your friends don't take a few jabs at each other, it feels like you might not even be friends. You know what I mean? Like that's just. Yeah. It's part you just dig at each other. It's funny. You know what I mean? Like it happened, it happened. It's obviously funny.
Yep.
But yeah, that's funny.
So a little bit different on going the not necessarily the wrong way. What's the story with you taking a header instead of throwing down with Lipsy in the final miles there? What happened there?
Oh geez, this is a good story. So yeah, we were racing Rothrock. What was this, like 2016 or something? 2017 maybe. And
oh no, that was I think it was 18 because that was like we had both just made the Sky team, I think. So that was oh boy, now we're gonna have a race and tune up.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that was 18.
For those that don't know, it's like a class. It was a classic PA race. It's really rugged. It's out near State College, and it was a 25K distance, and we were running together. Right past halfway, there's this really, really steep downhill where there might even be a rope. It's so steep and it's rocky, and it was really gnarly. And we come into this aid station, and I stop and Matt goes right through. So he put a little distance on me, and then we have to climb up out of the aid station outside of this boulder field. And I was trying to catch up some ground and I was looking at the ground because there's so much rocks on this course that there's this downhill that was coming up, and I wasn't paying attention. And there's this giant log that is perfectly at forehead height, and I didn't see it coming, and going full speed I run into it, and I'm pretty sure I think there was a couple seconds where I was knocked out, but I still have a chipped tooth from that race. So I still have my battle scar, but got up. I tried jogging and that didn't work. So I just walked to the next aid station and I'm like, this isn't going to work, but I gave it a try. I almost caught him. He got the best of me that day.
So here's what I remember, and pretty much everything Ben said is right. But I remember it because like two people seeing it differently is like funny. So like mine was like a little more hectic. So we go down that where the ropes are on the cliff. We come to the aid station. Ben stops at the aid station. This is the same aid station where it's like I felt like Ben and I were having the race the same, like in the future versus what like the famous race between Matt Byrne and Jacob Loveridge, when like Jacob sat at that aid station and they were just racing like tooth and nail, and Jacob sat at that aid station and drank a PBR while Matt was like trying to get some water, and he's like just like I don't know, like Jacob was a master of that course because he was a local, and Matt was like running the best times in the trail that he ever had, and Jacob was just like taking a dig at him. He drank a full PBR at the 10-mile aid station. It's like, you know, whatever it is, 16-mile race or whatever. And when you talk to Matt about this, I mean, he's just like, I can still see it. It was a PBR. He's like, that hillbilly could drink. And so I felt like we were having like our own version of like, because we were racing, it was 10-mile mark right to that aid station.
Yeah.
And we were like, I mean, his nose was right at my ass the whole way. And I'm like, man, you know, I felt like he was just kind of trying to save some energy, let me do a lot of the work, tire myself out. We got to that aid station. There's a big climb at a Shingletown Gap. And I was like, okay, I think I can out-climb him, so I'm going to go for it. And then just like mess with his head. So I got up there, and Ben was wearing a baseball hat, like with the brim down like this. And so he was trying to get that distance back. And I think he had his hat down because and then that tree is laying at forehead height across the trail. And he had his hat down, and he was probably looking at his feet to watch the rocks. And he's probably also thinking like, crap, I shouldn't let him go at that aid station. Then he just like, ugh. And then, but the thing of it was, if he wouldn't have hit that tree, he probably would have got me, because when I came, it was so hot that day, and I didn't stop for water, and I never really take anything with me or try not to, but I came out of, I put on that big burst of speed, and then I was like running like a wounded deer. Like after that, I got to the top, and after that little dip down, we got back up on the ridge. We probably had another like 5 miles left, and I ran it like a wounded deer because my hamstrings were like seizing. I was like, like it was no, and I was like, I kept like, he's gonna catch me at any time, and I was like, then I was like, why is he coming? Where is he? And then I got a little worried. I'm like, well, I can't go back now because like I can't do. I'm like puttering. It's like watching like a jalopy, like like it's like a plane crash coming to the finish line, anyways. And and then it was really bad. And I got to the finish line, and then like he wasn't, and then someone else came in, and I was like, this is weird. And then Ben showed up on a cart, like a bandage on his head, and like, man, if he would have hit that tree, he probably would have had me, because it was I blew up.
Yeah.
So did you come out Kilgore? Did you just have some blood kind of streaming down the face?
I spit out blood because I like bit part of my tongue. So so like for a little bit I was bleeding, but my head was not bleeding, so that was nice. Yep.
And so I guess there's a parallel there to that dynamic. If Ben really was buying some of his time with his nose to Matrix Lasagna's tush there in terms of buying your time and effort. So that, I guess that brings me to the now pretty stellar clip of, all right, how about this? So the significance for you for the number 3. So I did a little bit of math for the 2019. So you were, and I've got, I think 3 of them here, the 3-second significance. So your 440.51 to David's 440.54. So he'd run quite a bit quicker in 2018. I mean, you think he was just kind of sitting on you and just kind of buying his time and then just kind of glory dogged you, or how'd that day go down?
No, that's one of my favorite races. That was such a good race because we both didn't have a good day. So like we ran together for like 14 miles. And then at 14 miles, David twisted his ankle. And so I stopped with him for a bit. And then he was like, just go, like, I'll just keep on running. So I thought I put a huge gap on him, and there probably was a huge gap. But then at mile 31, I ran into this wall and walked up the last climb, and I was kind of dazed. And then coming down the last ski slope into the finish, I thought I was all alone. And then I hear these footsteps, which I thought was like a moose for some reason. Maybe it's just where my headspace was at. and like, I was terrified for a second. And it's just David Sinclair. And he just comes barreling past me, and I'm like, I'm not even like ready to go after him. And I could see the finish line with like a half mile to go. And I'm like, and for some reason, I just got this big extra energy boost. And it was just like my track background just came into click, and I just started sprinting after him. It was a really cool finish. I was so excited.
It looked like a cool finish. And it's always cool to see two just fast or speedy individuals over such a long race, where it's just so close. Like,
yeah, and it was cool because we both had things happen that didn't give us the perfect day, and it ended up to be like such a close, cool finish.
So you guys, I don't know whether you both know. I know Matrix Lasagna, you roomed, I think, with my old teammate here, Eric Samblick, prior, I think, when you're at maybe like Snowshoe World or something like that. Ben, I'm not sure whether you know Eric, but you guys, I kind of know how I looked at some of your results back and forth, and I could weigh in, but how do you guys respond to that question there from Eric?
What do you think, Matt? I think that I started trail running a few years after Matt was like killing it, all the PA and Northeast races. And at first, I don't think I was very good at climbing. And then I got better. I think Matt's a better climber for sure. And I think with my leg speed, maybe I'm the better descender. But what do you think, Matt?
I agree, and I think that Rothrock, when we had that race, was kind of a showcase of that, because I'd gap you on the climbs. I'd be like, "There, I put him away," and then he'd be like, I'd be like, "Shit!" And then I had to go faster than I was comfortable going, because he was like, "Yo, ready to run this downhill." But that was, for me, I still think you're the better descender, but for me, that was when, like, I would just rely on basically uphills to win races, and then that's when I turned it around, and I was like, I got to get better at descending. And I did, I think, but you're still the better descender, I think.
Yeah. And that's why, like, in Scotland, like the VK championships, like that, I feel like that is your race, like the VK, like you're so good at that event.
Yeah. That kind of works out in my favor. The Scotland dude. Oh my God. You should tell him about the weather. First of all, every day in Scotland, Ian, you lived in Scotland, right? Is that what you said?
Only for a few months, but yeah.
Every day is like,
okay, well, it doesn't matter, because every day is 50 and rainy. If I pull up my phone right now, the weather for the week will be 50 and rainy, and it'll be like 100% chance of raining on the hour for the next 12 hours. It's never, and like we got there, and Ben's like, "Does it always rain here?" And this farmer's like, "It was sunshiny last week." And I'm like, okay, I find that hard to believe, because every day I keep it on my phone just to show people, like, it rains every day. Like, but anyways, yeah, you should tell about that. You should, and then when, I got to, like, oh man, that was crazy. You should tell about the weather though. When like, Remy Bonnet, like, sat down and just like screamed into his hands because he was so cold. And me and Ben are like, "That guy's dead. We got to get out of here." Like, it was every man for himself. Like, just get back down the hill. Like, that was crazy. Like, I looked and like, I know Remy, and because like he came to Bike Speak and stayed at Pierre Maximow's house. And I remember I was just like, Ben is like, like we're all putting on our clothes, and Ben's just kind of looking at him, and I see him too. And he's so cold. He's just screaming into his hands behind a rock to get out of the wind. And I was just like, that guy's dead. I'm out of here. Like, Man.
That was definitely the worst weather conditions I've ever. Well, probably most everybody that day has ever raced in, but I mean, down on the bottom was like kind of normal. It was like just drizzly, and then the further up the mountain you went, it slowly became colder, and then it became sleet, and then it became 80-mile-an-hour wind, and then it was just like these bald rocks, and you didn't know if you were gonna fall or get blown off. It was crazy.
I don't remember what was the location.
Yeah,
what was the venue again?
Kinlochleven. Which up in the Highlands. I'm not very familiar. I just know that little town that we were in.
Uh-huh.
It has like the world's biggest indoor ice climbing gym or whatever.
Oh, huh. Random.
Yeah, very random.
I don't know about that. It was like, I think it was just that it was pretty small. I think it was the National Ice Climbing Center, but there was indoor ice climbing.
Yeah.
It was just like a very, very large refrigerator.
Yep.
But anyways, my favorite part was that they gave away beans and tortilla chips at the end of the race. And I'm like, is this some kind of weird Scottish thing? Or you guys like, what's this all about? And they were like, the girl was like, she's like, oh, this is vegan. She's like, we had so many people complain like, well, we need vegan, vegetarian, like non-dairy, like every food allergy that you can think of. You can cover them all just by having baked beans and tortilla chips. So they're like, no complaints now. You know, like we just and like nobody cared. Everybody was so hungry. They're like, yeah, this is the best. It's like prison gruel. And we're like, this is awesome.
Maybe there were years of rocking the haggis and tortilla chips, and they finally just caved.
I refused.
Yeah. Okay. And then our team, Ryan Kerrigan, the guy who like brought everybody there and kind of helped us out with like housing and stuff. I guess you call him like team manager or something. He was like, don't try the haggis. And I was like, and Ben was like, okay, I'm not going to try the haggis. And I was like, I am going to try the haggis.
Definitely try the haggis.
It was funny. It was funny because he told us at the same time. And there was like, it was like polar opposite answers. Ben's like, yeah, okay, I won't. And I was like, I definitely will now. I wasn't going to, but now I will. Like,
oh, jeez.
That's good. So that was and to your point of it always being like that, that was I think I don't remember whether our first or second year at Whiteface, and this was going to be my number 2 point on the threes here, but I'll get to that. But I think it was like our first or second year. It might have been first year at Whiteface, where it was still part of the Sky Series. So we had a pretty stout field, and it just turned into a total like Scottish Highlands like mess, where it was basically like sleeting and 40 degrees like at the summit or whatever, and like downpours the night before, and it was just a total mess. But I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but like the Scottish dude who won it that year was just like at home. Like that was just
Tom
his
Owens.
thing. And Tom Owens. Yeah, he was like totally sure-footed. He was like totally in his element and just kind of rocked it. So yes, there's a Scottish. All right, so Jeff's got a
I remember I
asked
him about that, and I said,
go ahead.
Oh, real quick. So I remember I asked him about that, and I was like, hey, so Tom, because we were staying, it was like the Solomon house or whatever, and he came with Solomon. And so I asked him, like, when I was in the house or whatever, and I was like, so I hear that, like, tomorrow is going to be, like, your conditions, you know? And he was like, because it rains all the time over there. He was like, I do like sunshine, you know? It was like,
yeah.
But like, if I would have known now what I knew then, I would have been like, when do you ever see that? When do you ever know that you like sunshine? Because like, I've been there, man. I keep up on it. I don't see any sunshine.
All right, weigh in, Ben and Matt, I guess, on Jeff's question there.
For favorite PA races, favorite PA, I would have to say like Call of the Wilds is probably my favorite 25K out there. Call of the Wilds and Slate Run 25K is really cool too. That's out in Slate Run, which is this little mountain town right next to the Black Forest Trail, and the Black Forest Trail is like my favorite PA trail. I'd love to do the whole thing sometime. I think it's like 48 miles. Super mountainous, really good views along the whole course, and I did that one last year, and that's probably one of my favorites in PA. But my favorite downhill in PA is on the Sproul 10K. I know Matt's done that a couple times, but that downhill is my favorite. It's just so fast. And then non-PA races, probably Jupiter Peak out in Park City, Utah is one of my favorites. OCC in France, part of the UTMB series, was just like the most amazing race I've ever done. But there's just so many. And then I did another sky race in France, Sky Race des Mathesons. I know I pronounced that incorrectly, but it was just super snowy and super, super technical. But yeah, those are probably my favorites. I love getting out to Europe like once a year just because it's a little change up and get to try something new. Also, the Whiteface Sky Race up that you do up there, that's probably the hardest East Coast race I know of. I love that race. It's just so challenging.
Yeah, it's a beast. There was one of the, I think it was maybe, I forget. I think he was on it for a couple of years. But when Ian Sharman was doing he was kind of the head of the U.S. series those years, there was one of the years we had a pretty nice, I think, it might have been like 2017 or something like that. It was one of the actually decent weather years for Whiteface. But it was, I think we were doing maybe Sarah Kai's or somebody was doing, I think, some live like Instagram photos or something like that and like tagging the Sky Series hash or whatever in it. And Ian, I think, texted me a couple times like during the race. He was like, basically like, yo, can you get anything other than just like these grassy slope like shots? Because there's like people want, because you don't get it, right? Like you don't get the magnitude of what Whiteface is. I think there's a clip of I'm losing his I'm losing his name just in the moment as I'm talking, but who just finished basically one of the two that went longest at Barkley a week or two ago.
Campbell, Jared Campbell.
No, it wasn't Jared. Who was with Jared? It was he's a physician's assistant, Colorado, no, Montana. In any case, he came out for that year, and there's a clip that Joe Aziz from Mountain Peak Fitness got of him going by, and he kind of looks over at the camera, and he's on the ascent, and he's like, yeah, this is no joke. But when you look at like the photos, you see like these grassy, mild slopes, as opposed to like some of the races that you'll go and do, like I don't know, whether it be Broken Arrow or whether it be like some of the others, where you get this like gnarly like scree field or something like that. It's almost like the difference between like the short distance and like the ultra distance. Like this is kind of what sells like in these series. It's like this gnarly mountain footage, and like Whiteface doesn't have that. But when you look at the metrics, like Whiteface, I shouldn't say dwarfs, but it's got more elevation gain per mile than anything like on the series, like by a decent margin. And so it's really tough, but I think it just doesn't convey like in those images or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I think that the world like skyrunning series and skyrunning series in general.
Yes, Luke, you're right. Or Vinny. Yes. Thanks, man. Yeah, it was Luke. Sorry.
Okay.
Keep going, Ben.
Is that they do have like some of the best, most picturesque places. So their marketing is unbelievable. And I think that you're right. Whiteface is unbelievably challenging, but I guess that might pose a challenge, but still one of my most favorite races.
Matt, Jeff wants to know, toss back there on the haggis, how'd it go down?
I loved the haggis. The haggis is actually what fueled me on that day. Just nothing but pure haggis. Like I went back for seconds and thirds, and my diet was primarily haggis when I was there.
Wait, and it is the only food that's sport. I love that. I love. Yeah, the funnier thing is now that I'm reading this. Wait, Jeff, aren't you a vegan? I'm pretty sure, Jeff, you're a vegan. But you can weigh in with another comment there. In any case, and then Clayton, this may have been when we were. I can't remember whether you're referencing Scotland there or whether this was one of the Whiteface years.
Yeah, he was talking about the Whiteface.
That was the Whiteface.
That was a mess. And that was a crazy year too. Just watching it all go down as an RD. We had a little bit that mix up in the beginning where the leaders overshot our course volunteers or marshals. The mountain, we were kind of relying on the mountain to get our volunteers up there, and they were just late getting us up there. And so our leaders with Joe and the Spanish dude, I forget his name at the moment, just got there first, and they started going the wrong way. So so then I got up there mid-mount. Actually, I was on the summit, and so I got the word on the radio, and I was trying to decide what to do would be most fair in the moment. So I basically put everybody it was basically like under caution, like at NASCAR. I was like, in the moment, I'm making the decision to not count this lap because I don't think it's fair, because basically the field split, and it wouldn't have really made a difference which way you went, but I know it got into people's heads where part of the field was going to the left, part of the field went to the right or whatever. And so I basically said, you're under caution till the bottom. Once you get to the bottom, the race kind of resumes, or it's like back on. And but the day was just it was nuts. And seeing people come in like Joe Gray just took an absolute beating that year. Like I was waiting for him to come down, and Tom Owens came down loping this, the Scottish loping style, looking fresh as a daisy. And then the Spanish dude, and then Tristan Williams emerged as number 3. And there was just like no sign of Joe Gray. And he finally came around this corner, and he just looked like totally shell-shocked. He was just, and he couldn't stay on his feet, like descending on Whiteface like in the slick. And so I think it just was a testament to you still take a really seasoned like mountain runner, but like Whiteface is steep, and it's like still really tough, tricky conditions. And he just got beat down that year. And it was really interesting to see it go down.
Mm-hmm. I think Joe's talked about that, and Joe's talked about that, and I think he says that it was his choice of shoe on that day. Like he says that he just was like ice skates in the mud. Like he didn't have any teeth on the shoes or something. Cause like I remember seeing a clip of that, and he was just like roller skating, and I was like, dude, that sucks, man. You can't grab onto anything.
I think he was maybe with Scott he was with Scott at the time, and I think he was probably wearing like it was probably something like this, where it was like one of the early like Trail Rockets or something like that, and there's just like no like grip, or it might have been something like that, but yeah, he couldn't stay on his feet. But that was going to be my next point on the 3. So the first second was how that went down on the 3 seconds between you and David at Ragged. The other one on 2019 was 3 minutes at Whiteface. You were also 3. So it went from 3 seconds to 3 minutes, finishing second to Matthew Blanchard that year. And if I remember watching you guys both out there, you still looked pretty solid, but again, a tough race to throw down out there.
Definitely. Yeah. That was the second time I ran it, and I went easier in the beginning because I knew that second loop up to the top was going to be dreadful. And we started that second loop up to the summit together, and he just got me on the climb. It was the climb again, and I think I made up some time on the downhill, but I think he was using poles that year, and I think that probably helped out quite a bit. Do a lot of people use poles on that course?
No, I think that he was kind of an outlier in being one of the front runners that was using poles. I think some people do use poles, but it's usually not the front runners. I want to say, I could be wrong, but maybe Ryan Atkins may have had poles out there.
That makes sense. He did. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, good race. And yeah.
And I reconfigured the course. We'll see. I'll put in the bid for U.S. Mountain Championships. I don't know whether we'd get it or not, but I somewhat shifted it a little bit away from the Sky format to a little bit more traditional, like mountain running. Like it's not just as direct lines, and I tried to make it more where it was more runnable. So as opposed to coming down like the really steep descent, which you can kind of at best kind of hop down it or whatever, I shifted it so you could potentially run. But it was, and I also ditched the flume loop. The flume loop's really pretty, but it seemed to kind of be an outlier where it didn't, wasn't necessarily the same as like the mountain race or whatever. And so now it's just 2 loops of the modified mountain circuit for 15 miles, but I think it upped the elevation gain versus prior years. So I think with it more runnable, where you can redline, I think quicker and harder, it's going to be interesting to see what will happen there, because it'll lend itself a little bit more to, I don't know, maybe even somebody like yourself, where you got a speedy background, and you can definitely open it up as opposed to just a technical like mountain runner. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there and whether we can get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would suit me better.
And then the third, which was bordering on a stretch, but I wanted 3 threes for you for 2019. So the other one was 3 in the number 35. So you're 35 seconds behind David Roche at the Montage US Half Champs. But it looks like that was pretty solid as well, especially to have local and a pretty deep field kind of go down for that race.
Yeah, I think I was 35. Yeah. But yeah, that was a really special event. I honestly didn't expect much out of it because I was the RD for it. And I was just super excited that we got the bid in the first place, and to be able to put it on in Scranton was just super exciting to me. And I was just like, I went into that race. I worked 60 hours that week, like weed whacking the course. I mean, all the stuff behind the scenes. And I was just like, all right, I'm really dead. I'm not going to do well. And like, once the gun went off, it was just like, I guess maybe the stress of of putting on the race took my mind off of the race itself. And it was just like such a good event. Like, once the race started, I just felt like effortless. It felt like, maybe it was because it was a hometown event as well, but yeah, it was a cool course. Matt, did you enjoy the race itself, the course?
Oh yeah. Good. You did a great job, man. That was a real deal. That was cool.
Yeah, I liked the format because the first half was really easy, and then the second half was where most of the elevation gain was. So coming into the second half of the race, me, Lee, and David were all together, and coming up into the last big climb, Lee kind of took off, and then David took off on me as well, and then I caught David in the last mile. So it was like a really cool, close event.
And is that one? Are you planning on running that one again, or is that kind of an outlier to host the championships?
That was an outlier to host the championships, kind of just to promote their other Black Diamond running event series. So probably won't happen again, but it would be cool if they did. It was just only talked about that one year.
Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy it from the RD perspective? I mean,
I did. Fun? Yeah. It was cool because at the time I was working at Montage, so my job was to put the race on plus my other duties. But so I spent like a couple months just trying to perfect it, and it was just really nice to have that time to do so. So I really did like it. I felt quite a bit of pressure because I was like a 25-year-old kid that was put under given this opportunity, and I was really happy that I had the opportunity. So I hope that people perceived it the same, like in a good manner.
Mm-hmm. And was it fun to then design the course based on your kind of, I mean, I guess you kind of got free reign, like you could have kind of come up with whatever you thought would have been fun to be a course to race? Yeah,
that was really cool because when I started working there, I just started, because there's no like actual like single track trails around there. It's all just like quad paths and stuff, and then whatever's on the resort. So I just started running around there when I got hired, and eventually I just started like putting together loops, and this was before the race itself and me putting in the bid. But I was like, man, I just found a really cool 10 mile loop, and then I added in the three extra miles on the resort, and it was just like, it just came together pretty smoothly. So that process was cool because I was just doing loops, and I figured out a good 10 mile loop and then just added 3 more.
Mm-hmm. And Lips, you had a pretty good day out there too, right?
Oh yeah. I had an all right day. It was it was all right.
Yeah, fair.
I didn't do as well as I was as well as Ben did, but I still had a good day. It was all right. Of course, I mean Ben's course was pretty sweet, and they had us go back and connect onto like that big flowy downhill, and then because I'd run around Montage a lot, and there was a good half of that course that I hadn't been on before. Like I'd been to the zombie bumper boat lakes at the bottom of Lightning Bolt or Cannonball. White Lightning? What the heck is that one that goes straight down by the beach? Yeah. Okay. So that's like the zombie bumper boat. Like you go there, it looks like an apocalypse scene. There's these discarded bumper boats, and like there's like broken glass windows. You're like, like just waiting for a corpse to like come crawling at you and ask for your brain. We went kind of around that, and I was like, there's a zombie bumper boats, and I was like, this is as far as I've ever been. And then I took another step, and I was like, and this is as far as I've ever been. And I took another step, and I'm like, this is as far as I've ever been. And then it looped us around onto this old railroad grade, and then it went down into this like wart hole, mucky muck swamp bottom, and then it went up, straight up this like this really cool, like it was like, okay, playtime's over, and then it just went straight, did some serious climbs at the end. It's like a reverse mullet, it was all business, like fun, getting you all warmed up, and then in the kicked you in the teeth in the second half. Which it was a great design. It was a lot of fun.
You should have had Lipsy on your marketing there for that race, where you could have worked in the mullet into the course marketing design, the zombie bumper boats as kind of marked on your course map.
Yep, I agree. I'll think about that next time.
That would have been funny. Like, oh shit, what about the zombie bumper boat?
And sorry, so in this year, and we'll try to see if you can wind down here, but this year coming up, you've got, at least on Ultra Sign Up, you've got Heiner coming up in April. Are you doing the 25K?
Yes.
Just because you don't feel tough enough for the 50K?
That is the reason. Yep.
That's fair. Yeah.
But then go ahead.
And then you've got Broken Arrow, and also kind of the kids race where you've got like the 26K or something like that.
Correct. Yes. Which still might be switched. Jeez. I might do the longer one. But after Heiner, I am going to the Grand Canyon in May. Hayden Hawks and I are going to do rim to rim to rim over 2 days. And then the plan currently is to pace him at Western if pacers are allowed. So I'm going to be doing that in June. And then July, we'll see if the World Sky Running Championships happen and if I end up on the team or not, which would be a really cool event to go to. And then August, the goal is to go back to up to New Hampshire to do that 50K, where David Sinclair and I are going to run against each other again. And then Broken Arrow, we'll see what I end up doing there.
That's a pretty sweet title card clip that Tom Hooper just released for you and David there on the.
I agree. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
it looks super official.
Totally.
Yeah.
And he Facebook messaged me a picture of a potential belt that he may work on also for the title belt.
Oh geez, both of you should sign up and join the competition.
Yeah, that's funny because I'd finish about an hour later feeling like hell, and I'd be like, that wasn't fun at all. Yeah. I think I'm starting to realize. I think I'm starting to come to grips with. I really don't enjoy racing that long, like either. Like I get out there and I'm just like, I don't really want to be out here. The wheels have already fallen off. I'm turning into this kind of like this walk, run, shuffle. This is, I don't know, this is just not really fun. Like I don't even know why I'm doing it. And as I'm maybe just getting older and even softer, I'm just thinking it might be fun to go some long efforts, but I don't know about racing them.
Yep. Well, you did Wasatch.
Yeah, Ian's like a sleeper though. Ian. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was gonna say you raced Wasatch. Did you like it out there?
Yeah, I mean I did. There were definitely periods. I was part of the. I guess what I'm also finding is that So I haven't run that much or that like consistently or regularly, and just I can't make the time, with 3 kids and multiple businesses, too many excuses where I've never been able to prioritize running. And so I just don't run that much. And so I'm usually going into these things on pretty scant training for what the distances are. And that kind of plays out. And I think I'm also just really weak between the ears, where I always just, for whatever reason, like my brain just kind of shuts me down whenever I'm in, like, I don't know, spitting distance of the finish. Like I'm just done. So like the even years where I've tried to get back, a couple years, I think Castle to River, short 50K, 2 Marches ago, came in, I got back down into like 440s, like mile shape, and was still only doing like 30 or 40 miles a week. But I was like, okay, baseline fitness, and went out there and like ran really well. And it was a pretty fast like effort. But the final 3 miles, again, I was just like, I'm done. Like, this sucks. I'm kind of walking it in. I know Ben Nephew is going to eat me up like anytime, give it another half mile, and I'm kind of going down here. But similar, like, but I also get out there and I don't really want to think about nutrition at all. So I was like, I just don't care. Like, I just want to kind of go out there and run. So I don't drink enough. I don't really eat enough. And then I paid the price like late in the game. So Wasatch too, I think, I don't know, I came through like a 50K and they're like, how you feeling? Yassine was pacing me. Was signed up to be my pacer and crew and me. And then another friend, Doreen, they're like, how you feeling? I was like, I don't know. I just feel like I ran a 50K. Like, I'm tired. Like, that was a long way. And then I chose like full on burritos to like eat at my like aid stations just because they kind of sounded good, which didn't really go well at all. And that was, which you'd maybe kind of expect, right?
Good,
Same
right?
thing. It's like,
Good,
I didn't really
right?
care. Like, I'm gonna eat a big fat burrito right now, and then I'm gonna keep going. And it didn't work so well. And so like Wasatch too, also, I don't know, ended up with some really slow zombie walking miles, but it was cool. I don't know. I just pulled off the wait list for the World's End 100K for June. And, Dave, and as we were messaging, first I got pulled off the 50K first. And I was like, I think I'll hold off and maybe do the 100K. Or he's like, you should wait because maybe you'll get through the 100K and if you'll like that better. And I was like, I'm not going to like that better. It's going to suck. I'm going to be out there and I'm going to be like, I don't even know why I'm out here. I'm kind of walking, shuffling, and I'm done. But I feel like I'm, it's one of these things to kind of check off and do. And now I'm just rambling. But so I don't know. Like, I think, to go out and do something like you're going to do with Hayden would sound like a lot of fun to just go do like a longer effort with friends. But I don't know about in terms of racing them, so to speak, or not.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we decided
barbecue sauce in my face the whole time.
I thought it was kind of cute.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't even notice it. Could have said something.
No. That wouldn't have been right. So you guys are going to do just.
But I was like, just looking around the screen. I was like, oh.
That's good. That what I was saying was engaging enough that you could take time to, inspect your face and see what was going on. So that sounds fun. So Hayden, that's just going to be a training effort. It's not like you guys are going for like a FKT effort or something.
No, yeah, we're making a weekend out of it. I'm gonna go out on Thursday. We're gonna do the north to south on Friday, and then we're gonna stay the night in Flagstaff and go south to north on Saturday. But we're just gonna do it as like a pre-Western like pacing training event. He'll be there most of the month leading up to it, so it'll just be like a fun weekend.
Has he raced Western, or would this be his first Western?
First one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that must be pretty exciting for him, though.
Oh yeah, he's super excited. I sat with him after JFK and we talked about this year, and this was the one thing that he was looking forward to. Just there's a lot of Hoka guys in it, so it'll be like a cool thing to hopefully have them all up front.
Well, that was another thing. You went out and did the Carbon X run, right, or race?
I did, yeah. I was a pacer for it. Yep. After JFK, I was on the phone with with the guy that was putting it on, and he was like, "Hey, we're planning this 100K for January," and this was like the beginning of December, and he's like, "Do you want to run it?" And I'm like, I probably will be more beneficial to be a pacer. And he was like, "Yeah, that's probably a good idea." So I signed up to be one of their pacers, and I paced Raj, who ended up finishing second. I paced him through like 28, 29 miles. So it was really cool.
Was that intentional because you're pretty good at finishing second?
Exactly. Yes. Yep. He figured we might as well put him with the guy that might finish second.
Yeah, that's good. You should have been like 3 seconds off of first there, just to.
Yeah, I should have just ran right behind him, and then he would have been pacing me. Yep.
And so, what's the? Let me find it. One of my. I've traditionally not been a huge Hoka fan. With the stack and kind of irritate my knees historically a little bit, but one of my favorite shoes ever here with the Evo Jaws. So if you've got any pull or sway, I mean, I know they already know about it because I sold some and then I sent the rest of them back, and I've given plenty of feedback. But dude, who's testing these damn things? Because the fact that they peel apart with after about 10 miles, and the fact that when you get it wet, the whole thing kind of bleeds color on your foot. Who's testing this shit?
Apparently you. Well, you'll have to send me your notes. I'll send them in for you.
I got plenty of them, but I absolutely love the shoe, and it's unfortunate that it doesn't seem like anybody tested it. Like they should have had somebody test it.
I remember when they came out with that. I was with Hayden at the time, and he was getting ready for like the World Championships for mountain running, and it was like a wet course, and that was like when they were launching the shoe. So I don't know the story behind it all, but yeah, send me your notes. I'll have to send them in for you.
Yeah, because I'm assuming, well, I shouldn't assume anything, but I'm assuming they're gonna fade it or update it with something else, and really they just need to make some of the corrections because it's an amazing shoe. It's just got some shortcomings.
Yeah, that would come in a real handy on that wet white face course.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so that carbon little X race, that it looked like it would have been kind of like a really just kind of weird feeling effort to be out there, kind of being so sparse and so kind of staged. And I don't know, once it was kind of in motion, did it just feel like a regular race, or did it feel pretty surreal? What was the vibe out there?
I thought that it was a really cool way that they designed it because it was 7-mile loops. So they had people on different parts of the course, whether it was like a DJ or they had aid stations every like 2 miles. So there were people, there weren't any crowds, but there were people almost all the time. So I think it felt like a normal race, not like a big like Boston or anything, but I think that they did a really good job with having so many aid stations and having like a couple of DJs, and there was one lonely section, which unfortunately was the section that had a headwind as well. But I think the design was perfect because unlike the first Carbon X, where it was a long stretch and then loops, I think that with nobody being able to be there, I think that the loops was the way to go for this one.
And what were the DJs playing that were getting you all stoked? Was it just kind of like
Taylor Swift and stuff like that?
I know what they were playing. They were playing Ludacris.
Yeah.
Hey, bitch, get out the way.
Was it, or was it Bon Iver and Taylor Swift on the from last year? And you're just like, I'm gonna stop here, and Raj and I are just we're gonna talk about things. We got a little bit of rub here in this last loop, and we're gonna sit down and we're just gonna work some things out.
Yeah, no, they were getting you pumped. They were getting your heart racing.
And from Steven there, looking for a comeback in addition to, and
check out that
personally, I want to see the hay bales come back if you do.
Exactly, yeah. I am undecided yet because that's right around the time of my wedding and honeymoon. So if there is a Howland Preserve race, it'll be later in the fall, but I'm hoping to have it.
I'm not sure about your devotion and commitment as a race director. If you're if you're not willing to schedule your wedding around the Howling Preserve 5 mile.
Interestingly enough, our wedding is at the Howling Preserve. So,
and I'm assuming a lot of people at your wedding are going to be runners.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna have the race at the wedding. So there you go.
Yeah, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
Is your wife a runner?
Ben.
What's up?
Oh no. Answer the question about Jill first. I don't know if she's a runner too.
Jill runs, yeah. I think she's a really good runner.
Yeah. Did she have like a competitive background? Was she did she run in high school or college or whatever?
No, she when somebody asks, she does say that she doesn't run, but she has done 2 races and she like wins her age group and stuff. I think she does really well.
So she should be then convincible to have the 5 mile ahead of your wedding that morning, basically.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think so. We'll see what I can do.
Yeah. And then
the important question is, okay, if Dan Laura comes to your wedding, will you just have him throw a hay bale for me? Like just like the opening ceremony, Dan Laura throws a hay bale.
Yeah, right down the aisle.
Right? In Birkenstock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right down the aisle. So like, let's get this party started. Throw the hay bale. They'll be like, that's that guy. That's that guy. I hate that guy.
If you go that route, you need to make Birkenstocks mandatory kind of guard.
He throws the hay bale from the back of the room. Everybody stands up. Okay, they're like, oh, they're about to come through. You know what I mean? And Ben is up there at the front, and Jill's about to come up through. But here comes Dan with a tuxedo, and he chucks a hay bale through the aisle. The crowd watches the hay bale, and it lands up front. The hay bale is now the altar, and then everybody turns, and then they play the entrance music, and then they get married on the hay bale, and then Dan's in the back with like sunglasses, sipping a martini.
Yeah, but then it's going to go down where Dan's going to blow it again, and the hay bale is going to explode in the back, and it's going to like land on like one of their grandmoms, and it's just going to turn into total freaking mess out there.
True, that's a good point.
Dan knows what he's doing. Dan, this is a one-time thing. Like Dan, it was the Birkenstocks for sure is what cost him the hay bale toss. If he's wearing wedding shoes, like some nice dress shoes, he's not going to botch it. It was just the Birkenstocks. He's a champion hay bale thrower.
He is.
All right. So what else are we missing here before we close out? Anything else that would be fun to mention or talk about or shout outs? Anything along that line? Anybody who's listening that has any final questions for the dudes here?
I have one. I have a question. I have a question for Ben.
Sure.
Ben, if you were to replace all the grass in the world with something, what would it be
this question.
And why?
All the grass in the world?
Yeah, all the grass. Everywhere you see grass, there's now whatever you're going to replace it with.
Oh, gosh.
It could be anything.
Maybe apple trees? So there's just apple trees
That's
all
cool. I like that.
Yeah. What's your answer?
An apple seed.
What are both of your answers?
Okay, so I'm actually gonna steal an answer because I asked this question during the New Year's Eve Trailapalooza that we had here, like when we interviewed a whole bunch of people and played like a trivia game. And I can't remember who it was, but she said, was it like Eliza or something? Anyways, she said, I asked her this question. She was like, and then she was like, no, I'm not going to say it. She's like, that's kind of dumb. And I'm like, no, what is it? I want to hear what it is. And she was like, I was going to say snacks. And that is the best answer I've ever heard. Replace all the grass in the world with snacks. Like I'm hungry. Like world hunger is solved. You know, some kid just needs to bend down in Africa and pick up snacks and he's good. Oh, and Eddie wants to know if you like cilantro. Which, by the way, Eddie likes cilantro more than anyone I've ever met because I watched him eat. He was like, yo, you want some cilantro? And he ate spoonfuls of it raw. And then I was like, is that aphrodisiac? And he was like, oh, yeah. So do you like cilantro? He wants to know.
I don't think I've ever had cilantro, so
That's
no,
cilantro. Huh.
I don't think that I have.
It's probably
say
tough
it
to
tastes like
find fresh
soap.
cilantro and like it does not taste like soap. It's probably tough to find some fresh cilantro in Tucana. That's probably the issue there.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Because you're living in a food desert and there's no cilantro there.
exactly. Yep. I will blame it on that.
Huh. No cilantro. And
Couldn't replace all the grass with cilantro.
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, well, if it tasted like soap, you're in a your world just sucks in a hurry.
Some people
Yeah.
say it tastes like soap. Eddie thinks it tastes like, something good because I've never seen anybody eat so much.
Matt, this one
Okay.
from you.
Yeah, I've been to the Eternal Tap. Who hasn't? Come on.
I haven't been to the Internal Tap. I don't know what that. All right.
Who hasn't been to the Eternal Tap?
What is it?
Home water always flowing. That's just water coming off the golf course. So St. Mary's is a brewery in St. Mary's. It's one of the 3 breweries that survived Prohibition, and they have this thing called the Eternal Tap, and it's you can go in there at any time, take the tour of the brewery, and drink 2 free beers. And like the people that have been there before because they're like, yeah, come on, hurry it up. Like they're just there for the free beer. But when my dad was a kid, he and his friends, like not my dad necessarily, but like kids that were his age, would ride their bikes. They used to keep it outside. So they would ride to, and it was just like, you could go get beer as much as you wanted, whenever you wanted. It was just a beer tap outside. So kids would roll up on their bikes and like drink beer. And then they were like, well, let's put that inside now. So yeah, anyway, sorry.
That's interesting.
Where's St. Mary's? Where is that?
Middle of Elk County, nowhere. Oh. This is Ben's interview. Let's talk about Ben. I want to hear about Ben. I want to hear about the Eternal Tap. Me and Ben could go to the Eternal Tap and we could ask Ben questions about the Eternal Tap. He could say, I don't know.
You could go have some.
Hey, why do they call you Smiling Ben?
I don't know.
Why do they call you Smiling Ben?
Maybe because
I think I see it right there. There it is.
Yeah, exactly. In college, my coach, I always had a really bad face when I was in pain when I was running. So he told me to start smiling when I was in pain, and it worked.
That's a good story. Your first reaction was like, I don't know why they called me Smiling Ben. And then you went into the legit story with, this is why they called me Smiling Ben.
Yeah. Yep. So now whenever I'm racing, I try to do it because it takes my mind off of it.
It's good.
Is that, do people actually, has that been a thing? Yeah.
Was that your question?
What?
Like, is that out there? Do like people actually
I
call
think it's
Ben?
funny. Well, it's funny because I just there was a picture of you smiling one time, and I was like, it was like during a race, and I was like, Smiling Ben, and then like I didn't know it was like 2 unrelated things. I just called you Smiling Ben because I'm like, this guy's always Smiling Ben. You know what I mean? And then it's funny that you're like, well, actually, yeah, my coach used to call me Smiling Ben. It's a real thing.
Oh, so that wasn't even legit. Like nobody calls him Smiling Ben but you. But
no, but it wasn't. That's how you know it's legit, is when I call him Smiling Ben, and then there's some other guy that I actually know him, but like in 2 separate universes of knowing Ben are calling him Smiling Ben. That's how you know it's a good nickname.
Yep.
But maybe you only know him after he got the. So he was probably
Math
when you're
checks
seeing
out.
him.
Doesn't matter who's
It
doing it.
does check out, and you were seeing him in his kind of maybe his pain cave moments where he was applying the strategy and it was working.
Yep.
Oh well, I wasn't like we weren't running side by side, and I wasn't going. Wonder what the guy's doing.
Smiling.
I saw a picture of him. But I wouldn't have thought if that was the case and I looked at him, I wouldn't be like, he's smiling. He's smiling. I wouldn't say, oh, I know what he's doing. He's trying to grin me down. You ever try to grin down a raccoon or a possum? You know, they look at you like this, like, you know, you just gotta look back at him like. So if I would have looked at Ben and I was like, I wonder what he's doing, and he was just and he just was smiling at me, I'd have been like, he's trying to grin me down, and I would do the same thing. I'd have been like, and it would just been us until one of us hit a tree or something.
All right.
We already know who that would have been. Oh,
Yeah.
just kidding.
All right. Any closing thoughts here, boys or crew out there?
No, I like this. I'd like to talk to you guys more. I wish that we had more time.
Yeah, no, we don't want to have you back on actually, but it was good to have you the first time here. But it sounds like you got a pretty fun year ahead. It's cool you got one on deck every month, including the pre-race wedding day, which is now slated. So I'll expect to come out to that race, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, but it would for sure be cool to catch up at some point in the middle. Maybe do a run through of the Black Forest Trail at some point, since it's your favorite. Or I could just crew you while you go after the FKT on the Black Forest Trail.
Yeah, that was actually one of my thoughts during quarantine last year. But yeah, if you're ever down in the area and want to run, that'd be fun.
Yeah, we can try to plan on that. And it'd be cool to catch up again down the line, whether the end of this year or next year, and we'll connect again.
Okay.
Cool. Well, Matrix Lasagna, thanks for being on with us as well. Ben, thanks again for making the time. To all those who tuned in tonight, and thanks so much for joining us, and we will catch you later.
Have a good one.
Ben, good luck this year, my dude.
Thank you.